What's up, everybody? We got a good friend of mine, goes way back to our juvenile days. Sherwin Hughes with WRRD. He's got a very popular show down in Milwaukee, The Forum. It's a political talk show. And thanks, man. It's been a while. How you doing?
It has been a while, man. I've been good. How about you? How you doing?
I've been good. Yeah, really good. Really good. Yeah, so we probably shouldn't leave them hanging too much, right? So I first met Sherwin back in 1994, freshman year of college for me. I think you had been out of high school a year already at that point, but yeah, he just kind of showed there was a large contingency of brown deer friends and football players that came to Minneapolis, to Bloomington, to Normandale Community College to play, and Sherwin was one of those that showed up, and it was me and Ben T and PJ and Mike Z, the whole crew, man.
Yeah, we tend to travel together, us brown deer folks. Obviously, we don't leave the house without each other. Even I'm gonna be with some of those same guys this weekend.
But yeah, so we're not really here to talk about that, although those were some good times, good memories. But thank you for being here. I really appreciate it, man.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Definitely.
So the name of the podcast is Championship Leadership, and I always like to ask, what comes to mind for you when you hear championship leadership? What do you think of?
I think of, obviously, people that have had an influence in my life, and if I could be and show the kind of leadership that they showed me and be that example for somebody else, I mean, that's just some of the stuff that comes to mind. But, leadership is one of those terms that gets thrown around a lot. And I think the threshold for leadership is low. It's anybody who has any kind of a following, a social media following. To me, it means you've done something that's inspiring and that's worth following. Like not just, something fake on social media, but real life accomplishment.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. And I would really like it to be the Milwaukee Bucks, but after last night's game, I'm not sure, man. Giannis needs to step up.
If we don't do it in Toronto tomorrow night, then that will prove that we aren't ready for Golden State. But Giannis shows some championship leadership.
Yeah, he needs to. You can tell the difference between him and Kawhi so far, anyway. Yeah. But I digress. And but yeah, no, I agree. And especially for you, right? So political talk show, right? You're talking about the leaders of our country and your community. You're very involved in that. And yeah, that's like real stuff, like you're saying, right? Versus the influencers maybe out there, the social media people with lots of likes and comments and shares. But I think that's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, it is. And to have a discussion about leadership, because I think it means different things to different people, but it's also an opportunity to discuss what isn't leadership. Just because someone has got a tremendous following, if they're not doing something positive to improve their lives and lives of other people, yeah, they may be a leader because they've got individuals that are following them, but if they aren't setting a good example especially for young people, then I'm not going to call that person a leader. You can think of, other names we could call that person, but if you're not a positive force and a positive influence on other people, then I don't think you make the grade as to what my definition of a leader is.
Yeah, absolutely. What tell us a little bit about you and how did you get into this line, right? I mean, we spent a year together in '94, like we talked, and then really kind of lost touch for quite a while, and through social media reconnected. But yeah, what brought you from that point to where you are today, and really talking? I mean, you talk to some major leaders and interact with major leaders throughout our country on a daily basis. Like, how did you get there?
So I suppose I can try and sum up the last quarter century. I went to college was never for me. Like I had no intentions of going. Like I was done when it came to high school, but I got a lot of encouragement from my parents And I took a year off after high school, and I realized that there really wasn't much out there, wasn't much going on. So I said, why not? I have some friends that were already in and established in Minnesota. There happened to be a space available in the apartment that we all lived together. And I took as an agreement with my parents. They're like, look, we'll help partially finance your excursion to Minnesota, but you got to go to school. You got to take some classes. And for me, that was a fair deal. Yeah. But what I realized when I was up there is that I actually had an affinity for school. So once I was in a different environment where I could be, exercise my freedoms as an adult and pick my own classes and learn about what I wanted to learn about, I come to find out that I actually was a pretty good student. In fact, I got my first 3.0 grade point average at Normandale in college. And so I was there for a time, but I realized that I could do more and I wanted to do more. So I applied to a 4-year University of Wisconsin school, and I got accepted. And I ended up graduating from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. I got an internship my senior year in college, which got me involved in community and community organizing. And I really was able to connect with people that I had not connected with before. And I was content. I got my first job right out of college as a community organizer, thought I was going to do it for the rest of my life. And then all of a sudden on a Friday afternoon, the phone rang. And it was a guy by the name of Tom Barrett. And at the time, Tom Barrett was a member of Congress who was also running for governor. And he said he had heard about my leadership as a community organizer. And he asked me if I wanted to join his congressional staff, within the next couple of weeks. And I was totally blown away because I went from someone who was content being a community organizer to having my leadership recognized by a member of Congress. And the next thing you know, I'm working for a member of the House of Representatives. So that essentially is where it started. I then went and worked for an incumbent governor. I worked on a presidential campaign. I ended up starting my own business, using my political connections to help run other political campaigns. And I just started getting all of these opportunities, but I was just following the path of dedication, of hard work, and creating a product of work that was going to be inspiring, not just for me, but also for other people. And I'll tell you, man, when you just focus on what's important to you and your passion and what drives you, people will recognize that. And I know that we don't do the work we do to get recognized, but when you're working hard and you're dedicated to a cause, people will realize your work ethic, and then all of a sudden good things will come to you. The radio show literally came as a total accident. I was supposed to fill in for one person for a single hour, and it was a marathon radio broadcast. It was a 12 or 13-hour radio broadcast about elections because there was an election then. And so I got a phone call from a former boss of mine, a state senator, and she said, Sherwin, we need you to come to the radio station to fill in for somebody. I had no idea that this was going on. And actually, I had, let me just say, a pretty late night before, and I did not feel like getting up and going to some radio station. They're like, look, you got to come just for an hour, no big deal. So I hung the phone up and I went back to sleep. Well, she kept calling and kept calling. She was quite persistent. I said, fine, I'll come up there just for 1 hour if you leave me alone and stop calling. Fair enough. So I get to this radio station, and I just essentially started talking about my experience in politics and talking about the election, whatever. Well, my 1 hour was up, and I'm watching the clock this whole time because I want to go back to bed. And they're like, well, the next person didn't show up, so just keep talking. And so I was like, well, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. And so the 1 hour turned into me completing the broadcast day. I actually ended up on air that very first time for 8 hours.
Wow.
It was totally unplanned, and I actually had a good time, but I didn't think anything was going to come of it. Well, that's it. Day is over. I get a call probably 2 or 3 days later. They're like, the people that were listening to you kept calling and asking when they can hear your radio show. And I, at the time, didn't have one. And so the radio station offered me my own show, and that was in June of 2012, and the rest is history. So, yeah, awesome, man.
I love it.
Got on accident.
Yeah, that's crazy. And isn't that kind of how it works, though? I mean, really, when you look back at most people's stories, it's a lot of times plays out that way. But I love what you said. I just had a conversation with actually a guy that was a Navy SEAL, and he said something very similar here. Essentially, just when you really follow your passion or what really drives you. It's just really kind of flows and happens, and you don't necessarily know like what's going to happen, or you didn't see yourself with this talk show that's been going for quite a while now. And I believe you just won an award here recently, right, for one of the top shows in Milwaukee as well. So congratulations on that, which, like, a long ways from, like you said, 25. That is 25 years. Well, you said quarter century. I was like, it wasn't that long.
Oh, yes, it was.
I was like, it was 25 years ago. I'm like, oh my goodness. Dude, that was 25 years ago. Wow. But yeah, we've all come a long way, and which I think that's how it's supposed to happen, right? Like, you're supposed to kind of come a long way over that time period.
Yeah, you can plan for as much as you possibly can. And sometimes plans work out, but the real thing is, how do you respond when plans don't work out? When you apply for the job and don't get it, when you go after the opportunity and you miss it. So there's only so much you can plan for. And I think the rest of life is just reacting to and responding to when your plan falls through. And I would like to think that that's what real leadership is, because real leadership knows how to work on the wire. So when you have a deadline, when you don't know what's going to come next, you just stay dedicated to your core principles, and amazingly, things just seem to work out. Not every day, not all the time, but probably more often than not.
Yeah, well, that's one of the questions I love to ask is, what are some moments in your life where, we usually have at least one or two, well, there's multiple, but real like pivot points, turning points where you could have very easily went, one direction, but you end up going the other, right? And that brings you to where you are here. And a lot of times, especially as a championship leader, those great leaders are willing to take the path that no one else is, right? They have this vision, and they're willing to execute and be decisive and go where no one else is willing to go. Is there a moment that really sticks out to you that in your life?
Man, I got a bunch of them. I don't even know where to start. So early in my career, when I went to go work for the member of Congress, Tom Barrett, at the same time he was running for governor. And back then, we just all knew that he was going to be the next governor. And he had made a commitment to us on his congressional staff. He was like, look, when I become governor, all of you guys are going to get jobs working for the governor. You essentially can pick whatever job you want. And so we have this manual called the Blue Book, which is all of the state government jobs. And so while our boss was out campaigning, we're going through the book, picking jobs. I want to be the director of this, or I want to be so-and-so. Well, I had my plan of what job I wanted, except he didn't win. So he was governor. So the job I had picked out, I ultimately didn't get. But what I didn't realize, because I was terribly sad about that, because losing an election is like losing essentially a Super Bowl game.
I can imagine.
And we were all very disappointed, but through that disappointment, a lot of other opportunities became available. Same thing again, just last year, I was supporting a candidate for governor. He made the same promise. Maybe I need to stop working for gubernatorial candidates, but we thought he was going to win. And same thing, he was like, Sherwin, you got a job in my administration, whatever it is you want to do. And unfortunately, he didn't win either. But at least I still have the radio show. I still have my political consulting. So even though things may not work out, it's always a good time to take inventory of what you have, instead of being sad about what you may have missed.
What was that job? I'm curious. What was the job the first time around? Like, do you remember which one you had picked out? Like, which one was?
I was going to be the Secretary of Travel and Tourism. I essentially was going to promote tourist attractions in Wisconsin, but be able to travel to them on the state taxpayers' dime. So I would go to the Dells, I would go to attractions here, and just promote tourism in the state of Wisconsin. So just a bunch of in-state vacations, but don't worry about that because it never happened.
I love it. I like it. That's interesting. So, talk show, I see what you do. I see your lives every now and then, and I'll tune in from here to there for moments. And it's obvious when I watch, when I listen, I mean, you're very passionate about what you're doing, right? I mean, it comes off to me, at least, as like this, just, you don't take it lightly. You take it very seriously. And sometimes, I know for me, especially like political, whatever your beliefs are, right? It's just, it can get really draining, the conversation. And for you to be able to do that, like you really obviously know what you care for sure. And it's just like a life's work and very important to you. Talk to me, like, where did that come from? Or yeah, where did that develop for you?
Well, I guess the first thing is, so we broadcast in the state of Wisconsin, and we have a really, really powerful signal, so people can hear us from Green Bay to the Illinois-Wisconsin state line, all the way out to the Dells, and actually our signal travels across Lake Michigan
Oh, wow.
to lower Michigan. And when you're on air, we have like a 1.1 million person listenership, the broadcast range.
Yeah.
First and foremost, you have to be yourself, because you can't fake it. You can't pretend to be somebody else when you are engaging an audience that size every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's certainly the first thing. But also, I've found that being involved in politics and influencing policy is the best way to help people. Like, I can do good deeds, I can donate to charity, but if I really want to have a major lasting impact on making people's lives better, on making education stronger, on, you know, having more job opportunities for those who are seeking them, policy is the way to do it, because I'm so passionate about helping people. And I'm fortunate in that I found my lane and my avenue to where I believe I can have the most impact. And you get so comfortable in your own space when you found your true passion, that as hard as it may be to get up 5 days a week, prepare for 2 hours, then be on air for 3 hours, when you realize how fortunate you are to do a job that you love, because I got to be honest with you, Nate, a lot of people don't like their jobs, and I can't imagine going to work every day and counting down the days until I retire. And so I'm fortunate in the regard that even if I'm having a tough day, even on my worst day, I'm still doing the ultimate job that I'd want to be doing. So I think that helps me get through some of those cold Wisconsin winters where I got to shovel snow, be able to get the car out of the driveway. So the motivating factor is that I have an opportunity to stay in my lane, to do what I love, and to talk about those experiences on air.
Yeah. You mentioned at the very beginning, again, we were talking about what championship leadership is to you, and there are a number of people that have impacted your life along the way. Who are some of those? You know, talk about some of the, maybe the leaders or mentors that you've had along the way that have really shaped who you are and helped you to where you are today.
So there's been a few, and at every stage of my life, like you reach a new rung on the professional ladder, you meet new people. And sometimes along that journey, those new people you meet become mentors for that level that you have just risen to. But before all of that, I mean, obviously it's my parents, who I love dearly. They're still married. So it's family is first and foremost. But I would say outside of that, my first person that I would consider a mentor that gave me like all of these useful metaphors for life that echo in my head now more than ever. Because it's crazy when you're a teenager, when you're young, and all these adults that care about you give you all this advice, you don't pay attention to it because you don't even know how it can affect your life. But the thing that young people don't get is the adults that are talking to you and trying to steer you in the right direction, they've lived the next 20 or 30 years of your life for you. So they're going to tell you how you're going to end up. Like, if you don't listen to them, you're going to end up finding out that they were right the entire time. But it was my football coach. Because what he would do, and he was known for this, and he was, Mike's coach and Paul's coach as well.
Yeah.
Is he would just stop practice. Everybody come over here and take a knee. And he would just tell us stories about life. He's like, you're on a football field and you're competing, and yeah, we got a game this weekend, but you're going to compete every step in your life. You're going to compete for a job. You're going to be competing for opportunity. So what you're doing today on a football field is going to translate into life. And we just thought it was weird. Like, dude, why are you stopping practice to just break this stuff down? But when I come to find out, he was right. And I'm 16, 17 years old. I'm still confused as to why I'm not, still hitting the tackling dummy.
Yeah.
He made sure that he took necessary time whenever he was motivated to do so to tell us that the game of football is a perfect metaphor for life. And he was right. So my football coach, definitely.
Yeah. What's his name?
George Blanchard.
That's right. I remember you guys talking about.
We called him Big B. That was our football coach. Yeah. So he was a profound influence. But then I've had even teachers that saw something in me that I didn't necessarily see in myself, that gave me words of encouragement and motivation. And as you get older, your memories become much more crystallized because you just remember what they said on that day, and some of that advice still helps me to this day.
When I think about the football coach, we need a lot more of that, right? Because that wasn't my experience, but if I think about it, like if I was coaching a football team, I would absolutely do that and just talk to them more about life. Like they need less football, especially at that age. Like you say, I mean, there's just so many life lessons that you can impact and give to a kid. And again, they probably aren't going to receive it necessarily in that moment the way they could or should, but to be able to look back on that and be like, yeah, man, Coach Blanchard, Big B, he knew what he was doing, and it was bigger than just wins and losses. So that's awesome story. What's the plan for you? What's the vision? I talk about championship leadership, having this vision, this big vision, this bigger vision than others. What's a vision for you next 5-10 years, and where you want to go and what you're doing in your life and in your work?
I think that it gets harder, and so I'm very content with where I am, and a lot of the goals that I set for myself, I'm shocked because not only did I accomplish them, sometimes you set what you think is a lofty goal and you accomplish it before you're ready. Like, I'm going to set this path for myself, and then holy smokes, 6 months later, like this might be a 5-year plan, but I'm where I thought I was going to be in 5 years in 2 years.
Yeah.
Now it's a matter of not taking anything for granted, taking inventory of what I have, and just continue to be better. The radio is what I love to do. I've got no real plans to do other media outside of that. I'm still doing some political consulting because now, believe it or not, people hire me and pay me to give them advice. So, furthering that. But I think ultimately, man, what the ultimate goal would be, if you're involved in politics, there is the pinnacle of that. And that's the White House, man. I would love to be an advisor to a president or work in a presidential administration. And if I'm going to set lofty goals, then I might as well set them as high as possible, because even if I don't quite make it there, I'm still going to be in pretty decent company. So if I was to continue to pursue the political thing with great vigor, then there's only one goal, and that would be to get to the White House at some point. I don't think it's going to be this White House, but maybe one in the future. Maybe in the future.
Right. Well, yeah, I love it. Well, this White House maybe really needs you. And they could I'm sure you could help them out.
Oh, I think they need a lot of things, but I'm
sure you do.
necessarily what they're looking for.
Yeah. But I love that you say that. I love that you're willing to put that out there too, because I think a lot of people maybe they would want to, but they'd be afraid to even say it, right? For whatever reason, like why would you be afraid to say it? But just like thinking that it's not possible, or who would they think they are to even say something like that? But so I love, that's the pinnacle, right? I mean, that's the championship. That's the world title right there, to be able to do that in what you do.
You got to speak stuff into existence. And I never used to believe that, but I got some advice somewhere along the way, and they said, write down 5 things that you want to accomplish. Whether you accomplish them or not, doesn't matter, but write them down and look at them or read them every single day. Mm-hmm. So I did. I had a little note card, and I wrote down. So one of the things that I wrote down was pertaining to, I wanted to have a recognized radio program. And this was many, many years ago. And I put this notepad or this piece of paper on my refrigerator. And me, I like to eat. So if I'm going to read something, I need to put it on the refrigerator. And
those Totinos.
Oh, listen. I still eat them. Look, and $1.29, you can't go wrong. So I put this note on the refrigerator, and so subconsciously or consciously, I'm reading it essentially every single day. And then you mentioned this earlier, my radio show was mentioned as one of the best morning shows in the state of Wisconsin. So it was the first radio show that I did at this new radio station, because I've only been at this station for about 7 or 8 months. And they submitted my first broadcast on this new radio station to the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association. and I got third place. And so third place clearly is not first place, but I was mentioned amongst people that had been broadcasting for 30 and 40 years. And to even be considered in that category, and it was sports radio, and then the other one was a radio station that has a television station attached to it, and they also are the broadcast for the Milwaukee Brewers. So they're way more established than I am. But to be mentioned in that category amongst those people, and I'm not going to say it was directly me reading the note and the goals that I had on my refrigerator, but something happened. And so from that point forward, I always said I was going to speak my goals in existence or read them or recite them to myself because, man, I swear dreams can come true. I swear they can.
Oh, I love it. I believe in that 100% as well. And I've seen it, but I got journals and books with goals that I wrote down a long time ago that I even forgot about. And I come back and look at it and I'm like, I'm living this.
Right.
This is so crazy. It's just crazy to think. And there is definitely something to it, whatever it is. I don't know, but yeah, I believe in it myself. So absolutely 100%. What's this is a little off the cuff here. This isn't necessarily, I'm going a little off my program here a little bit, but what are one or two lessons from 1994 Pebblebrook Normandale Community College that have that you've been able to carry and apply into your life, your successes, other than Totino's pizzas?
Don't get 3 noise warnings from management because you'll get evicted. Don't be too loud and rowdy. You got to learn to compromise with people because we were an unusual mix of human beings that came from different places, different backgrounds, different states. We were different ages, but we made it work some kind of way. And I think that's a valuable skill because you never know who your colleagues are going to be. You never know who's going to be sitting in the cubicle next to you. And if you have experience with just getting to know somebody and finding common ground, like, cause I didn't know y'all, man. I knew one person in that apartment, then he moved out. Yeah. And then the second person, but you I didn't know, and Ben I didn't know, but we all became really, really good friends. So that was something that I learned, that even if you don't know somebody, you can get to know them and they can be friends.
Yeah, no, that's great. And then like you said, I forget the guy's name, but we had the maintenance guy for the entire building that lived right below us, right? Remember him?
Whoever they were, they moved out because we made so much noise that the apartment below us was vacant for most of the time that we were there. But yeah,
I mean, for as much trouble as we gave him, he sure loved us. He was nice to us. So that was negotiation skills or whatever it was, but charm, I'm not sure. But yeah, I like that, because that was a crazy, you got Benty, you got me, you got you. Mike Z was there for like a minute, and then he was gone, and then PJ comes storming in, and like.
That's a good way to describe it. And so Mike, I talk to these guys all the time, like that's still my social circle. And I'm going to tell you about Mike Z. To this day, Nate, 25 years later, his biggest regret was not finishing school. His biggest regret was going home. He's still, and it actually breaks my heart because I wish that he would have stayed because he missed out on, we grew up. We learned so much about just everything, man, and I'm sad that he missed that, and actually he regrets it too.
Yeah. But he's doing good, right? He's doing really well.
Man, he's doing better than good.
Yeah, no, he's keep in touch with him, and it's good to see how well he is doing it. But because he was my first roommate. And I was sad to see him leave, and then it was like, who's this PJ dude? Who's Paul Renault? But it was good, man. It was so good. So many stories, so many memories. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's wrap this up here real quick with one last thing. What are one or two things that you could leave with my audience? And I would say that my audience is probably mostly entrepreneurs and definitely people that want to grow. They want to become championship level leaders that don't settle, that definitely run into roadblocks, but to push through. Like, what are one or two things that you could share to benefit those out there listening?
First and foremost, if you're being true to yourself and you're working in your passion and you're doing something that you love, don't stop. Don't stop, because people are going to tell you that you can't. They're going to tell you your dreams are impossible. They're going to tell you your dreams are too big. That's the issue. They don't know anything about your dreams and how hard you're willing to work to accomplish them. So don't listen to those folks. Just keep on going.
Yeah.
In that journey, you're going to meet some great people. You're going to meet people that have more money, that have more success. You're going to have people that are smarter. But one thing that you can do is you can outwork them if you just keep going. Because one thing that can happen is people get really successful and they start to slow down. They lose that edge. They lose that drive. If you stay hungry, you will be able to best people that you thought you never could compete with. So don't stop. Keep going. Take your criticisms and turn that into more energy to continue to push and just hope for the best.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. Thank you. What are a few ways that people can check you out, follow you, find your show? And of course, we'll put these in the show notes too.
Sure, I'll make it really easy. So the website where you can listen live and also listen to podcasts of the show is theforum1510.com, theforum1510.com. It's also at the Forum 1510 on Twitter and Instagram, the Forum 1510. So if you just search the Forum 1510, all of our social platforms will come up and you'll be able to participate in the fun stuff we do every day on the air.
Love it, man. Thank you.
My pleasure, man.
Appreciate your time. It's good seeing you, good catching up. And yeah, thanks, man.
My pleasure. Have a good weekend, Nate.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Nate Bailey here, Championship Leadership, and special episode today. Good friend of mine, Sherwin T. Hughes. He's got a radio program called The Forum with WRRD 1510 in Milwaukee. And we go way back to our first year of community college at Normandale Community College. And it was just so good to catch up with him, to see what he's done and to see the things that he's up to and the impact that he's made. This is a great episode. It was fun. We laughed a lot. We caught up a little bit on life and had a great conversation around championship leadership. So with that, like always, if you could give us a review, give us a 5-star rating, give us some likes and some shares on social media, and continue to spread this message for me. I don't make any money from this show, but I just do it because I love the impact. I love the conversations that are had and the value that is added to you as a listener. So with that, I'm excited to introduce a good friend of mine, and just so thankful that he took the time out. Sherwin Hughes with the Forum, WRRD 1510.